What's going on, guys? Blake Fontana here. Quick question for you. Who here watching this video would like to make more high ticket sales more consistently? Now, I'm sure the answer is yes, because at the end of the day, who wouldn't want more sales? And if that's the case, this video is for you, because up ahead, I'm gonna be sharing with you 5 super simple sales tips you can go out and deploy straight away today after watching this video to see more high ticket sales come your way. Now, for some context before we get into this video, I got first started working sales when I was around the age 15, 16 years old in my family business, selling physical products at the retail store. Since then, from going from physical products in a retail store to launching my own online business and building and selling digital products, services, I've now closed well over 7 figures in sales. And what I'm sharing with you up ahead in this video are what I feel are some of the 5 most important tips to help you start converting more high ticket sales. Although these are in no real order of significance, we're gonna kind of start by talking through some mindset that I feel is super important for those of you here to step into to start seeing higher performance. But as we progress through these tips and this video, I'm also gonna be sharing some direct tactics that you can use in your sales conversations to start converting deals right away. So if you're looking forward to these 5 tips up ahead, smash that thumbs up button. And without further ado, let's get into it. When it comes to sales conversations and business exchanges like this, all we're really looking to accomplish is a win-win scenario. You give me money for me to provide you with a service or solve a problem that you're dealing with right now. I experience the benefit of the money that you give to me. You experience the benefit of the solution that I provide you and the problem that I help you solve. But as someone in sales, I know it can be sometimes very easy to lose sight of this, and instead we start focusing on what we gain, the commission that we earn, the profit that we're bringing in from this. And as a result, we lose sight of why we're having this conversation to begin with and what that person on the other end of the conversation really wants. And when we start losing sight of that, that's where we start creating separation in the conversation. And that prospect, that opportunity that we're speaking to starts to feel like we're not hearing them, understanding them, and we're not thinking with their best interest in mind. An example of this that I experienced just recently was last year when we were in the market for purchasing our first home. Now, first experience with working with a realtor, my wife and I laid out basically everything that we were looking for in our first home. We wanted a nice sized yard. We, more than anything else, wanted a move-in ready house that wasn't going to require a bunch of time, energy, or work to fix it up and get it to move in condition. There was location parameters that we were looking for, the size of the house that we were looking to achieve, and so on and so forth, more details that we had specifics on what we wanted out of that first home. Now, fast forwarding from that moment of us passing over those attributes, the realtor started to send us house listings, and there was one listing that she reached out to us right away and said, "Hey, I really think you guys are gonna like this house. You should go check this out." Now, shortly after taking a look at that first listing she shared, we quickly realized just through the digital images that this house needed some serious work. It needed some fixing up. It definitely wasn't move-in ready. And the yard was super, super small. It was on top of other houses around it. 2 things that completely rubbed us wrong and things that we were not looking for in our first home. So now in this instance, once we expressed that to the realtor, to me, we're kind of thinking of it like, number one, if she would have considered what we were looking for from the start, we could have avoided even looking at this first home. But knowing that this was the first one that she shared to us, we were sharing her feedback, what we didn't like about it, how we weren't interested in this, and kind of reiterating what we talked on in the beginning, and using this as an opportunity for her to change the way that she was approaching the proposals that she was making and the houses that she was sharing. If she chose to bypass that and continue to just share houses that were the same as that first one, no yard, not move-in ready, we would start to see and feel that this person really doesn't have our best interest in mind, or they don't have the inventory to support what we're looking for. And if that was the case, that's okay too. It's as simple as that realtor coming in and saying, "Hey, unfortunately, with the attributes that you're looking for in your first home, we don't have the inventory right now at this point in the market to support or to have options for you with all these laid out. But I can recommend that you look in this area and work with this realtor, and they could refer me to somebody else." Thankfully, in this experience, although we had to wait a little bit of time for more inventory to come to life, this realtor did show us that she heard us, she understood us, and she started to pivot the listings that she was sharing going forward to make sure they were more in the range of exactly what we were looking for. Main point in this tip at the core is that it's all about creating win-win environments. At the end of the day, that realtor was going to get a cut in whatever house that we purchase. Now, obviously, she may have preference in terms of houses that she wants us to buy because maybe she makes a larger cut on those houses versus other ones. But at the end of the day, as long as she's showing us that she understands us and what we want, and she's working to share listings based on around that, at the core, we're going to get what we want, she's going to get what she wants, and it's going to create a win-win environment. Which leads me into tip number 2, which in my opinion, this is one of the most underrated sales attributes that many people overlook in their sales conversations, and that is the importance of actively listening. Just like in that last tip, if that realtor didn't take the time to actively listen to what we were saying and instead bypass that towards what she thought was in our best interest or what she wanted for us, we wouldn't have been able to work out a deal and we wouldn't have purchased the home through her. But she chose to listen, she chose to show us that she was listening, and she made changes to her proposals going forward to prove that. Now, in sales conversations, whether it's in Messenger or on a call, oftentimes I see this with a lot of students that I work with that are early on in their journey, where in those beginning stages, they want so badly to try to talk their way into the sale. And they end up talking more than they do listening. And something that I always share, if you record your sales calls and your conversations and you're seeing that you're talking more in that call than the person on the other end of the conversation, then you need to take a second look at how you're handling that call and work to improve you talking less and instead listening more and really focusing on actively listening on that call. By us working to improve our ability to actively listen and show that person on the other end of the conversation that we are listening to them, not only is it going to lead to better outcomes and more high ticket sales for us, but it's also going to lead to that person on the other end of the conversation really feeling like, man, this person has my best interest in mind. They want to understand me and they want to hear me so they can help me in the best way possible. So let's say to start the call, we dive right into the number one challenge that you're facing. And I ask you right now in your online business with the stage that you're in, what do you feel is the biggest obstacle holding you back? And you start to talk more about how leads are the biggest challenge for you. You have an offer that you started to work on, but you just can't seem to find the right leads and the qualified leads to sell that offer to. Now, if I wanted to show that I wasn't actually listening to them, I could just take what they say there and immediately flow into the next question that may not align with that last question I asked. Essentially showing them I have a set list of questions that I'm looking to accomplish or get through on this call and just kind of going through those one by one. This is a great way for that person on the other end of the conversation to not feel heard or to not feel understood. And it also is a great way for you not to be armed with the information that you need to really understand their pains, problems, and how they feel that it's impacting their business right now. Instead, a better way to handle it is for me to step in to understand, hey, the first thing that this person just mentioned to me is that leads are their number one challenge. They're struggling to get their leads to convert on their high ticket offer that they're selling. Now, in my mind and my experience, I'm knowing that first, I want to understand how they're currently generating leads. What's their process to nurture and convert leads right now? Are they educating their leads? What's this all look like so I can have clarity and scope to step in and provide insight and recommendations based on what I feel would help improve their current strategy. So if I take from what they just shared around that challenge of leads, instead I could say to them something like, okay, that's really good to know. For you right now with the leads that you're generating, can you share with me a little bit more about how you're generating those leads? What platforms are you active on and what does your current lead generation process look like? So as they talk more on that, I'm actively listening to hear with them what platforms they're active on, what that process looks like. Then I can repeat that and ask the next question related to that. So from there, I could say something like, all right, so now I understand that right now you're active on Facebook and active on Instagram. And your primary method to generate leads is through reaching out to folks via cold DM, working to identify problems that they're facing, the goals they're working to hit, and from there trying to step into book calls and present your offers. And from there, flowing into the next related question. You can see here how I'm taking what they share with me and basically recapping and repeating the key points and highlights that they shared, showing them that, hey, I heard you say this, I understand this, we know this now, let's talk further on this. Rinse and repeat that process throughout the call, and we're constantly building off the last thing that they shared, showing them that we're listening, and then from there, taking it to a next question that actually relates to the last question that we asked, showing them that we know what we're talking about, we're the expert here, and we're guiding them to getting clarity on this and getting to the bottom of what's going on here and how we can solve this together. So at the core here is we've talked to these first two tips. The first two to me really go hand in hand. In order to create win-win environments and to have their best interest in mind, we need to be able to actively listen and show to them that we're actively listening to what they say. What we want to work to get away from is making them feel like we are taking them to a destination without their control. People don't want to feel handled. They want to feel understood. And like we mentioned early on in this tip, if we start acting robotic and just going through a series of questions randomly from one question to the next and flowing through them all, they're going to feel like we're taking them to a place that they don't know. They're going to feel like they're not being understood, and they're going to be feeling like they're being handled. Instead, what we want to do is make them feel comfortable, make them feel open to expressing more about what they're talking on. And the best way to do this is to show them that we hear them, we understand them, and that we're actively listening to them each step of the way. Building off of tip number 2, this next tip is more of a sales metaphor, but one that really relates to what we talked on in number 2, but really, to me, gives great perspective and the importance of not doing this in our sales conversations. And that is, if they say it, they own it. If you say it, they doubt it. So what do I mean by that? At the core, this usually comes up when we're bypassing what we talked on in tips 1 and 2, when we're not focused on making it a win-win, when we're not actively listening to them, and when we're trying to basically prescribe them before we know enough and before we show them that we've heard them and understand them. And essentially what we start doing is telling them, oh, based on what's going on here, this is your problem. This is what you're doing wrong. This is what you need to be doing more of, and this is why you're not getting the results that you want. If we come out and state that problem, state what they're doing wrong, state how they could be doing it differently this way and start seeing these results, before they admit to that themselves, by second nature, they're going to doubt it. Because they likely don't feel heard, they likely don't feel listened to, and now you're stepping in and telling them what they're doing wrong and why things are the way they are. And in turn, they're going to doubt that because they're going to say, you don't know me, you don't know what's going on in my business, you're not listening to me here, you're just telling me what you think is going on. Which is why it's so important to always go deeper in these sales conversations and get them to actually self-admit and see what the problem is itself. In that example that we just laid out in tip number 2, notice how I was walking that conversation down the line in a sequential order, so that prospect on the other end of the call could clearly see where the gaps is and what's going on, to the point where they actually step in and say, you know what, now that we're going through these questions and talking through this, I can see that I have no process in place to nurture leads and educate leads, and this is why I'm dealing with a lot of conversations that are dead-end convos with unqualified prospects. It's a lot different when that prospect on the call says that and admits to it, versus me stepping in and saying, hey, the reason that you're not getting results is because you're not educating leads, you're not doing this, you're not doing that, and kind of just pointing the finger at them saying this is what you're doing wrong. The key here is to get them to own it. Because again, if they say it, they own it. If we say it, they doubt it. Sales tip number 4, deploying what I like to call the prize frame. So by prize frame, what I'm meaning here is that this is all around the mindset that we're having going into a sales conversation. It's very easy for us to get in the mode that we need the money, we need the sale, we need the conversion. But if we don't get that, then we didn't do our job. Things didn't go our way. We lost. And we're down on ourselves and beating ourselves up over it. So as a result, with this mindset going into the call, we feel like we have to secure this deal, especially let's say it's a lower month right now. You just came off a big month last month. This month it's been a little bit slower. So getting into that sales conversation, you're really hoping to seal this deal up to get your sales numbers back up for the month. If we go into that conversation hoping for a sale and expecting that to hopefully come, as a result, the energy that we're expressing on the call is going to be felt by that other person on the other end, and they're going to feel that you want that sale and that you're in this for the money, for the sale, and ideally this is what you want to make happen before you walk away from today's call. In turn, this is going to create some pressure for that person at the end of the conversation. And in turn, it's going to make them feel a lot less comfortable and confident in putting trust in you to invest thousands of dollars into you and work with you going forward. I can't tell you how many times I've seen many students early on when they come in to work with me, they're so focused on trying to land those quick wins and those initial sales that they lose sight of this and they start to get rejected on call after call. And then they start to let that take a hit on themselves, their worth, and how they can handle calls going forward. Feeling like, man, nobody wants to buy from me. People don't want to make a purchase with me. People don't want to give me money. And all of this is feeding our energy to go into these calls, hoping for the best, expecting the worst, showing that energy on the call, and in turn, not seeing the results we want. A simple shift that you can deploy today to start improving this is going into your calls with what I like to call the prize frame. And that is simply reminding yourself that you are the prize here. So if they say no to you, if they reject you, if they don't want to work with you, it's their loss, not yours. So rather than us letting it take a hit on our own personal confidence, making us feel like, man, we're not good enough, people don't want to work with us, people don't want to buy from us, we can't go into sales conversations like that. Otherwise, every single conversation that we have is going to lead to rejection and disappointment on our end. What we want to work to do is go into these calls with the mindset of whether they say yes and decide to work with us or whether they say no and decide to not work with us, it's no loss either way. In fact, if they choose to say no, it's more their loss than ours. And as a result, what this does is it takes the neediness out of the conversation. Quickly, you'll start to see that person on the other end of the conversation doesn't feel that needy energy from you. They don't feel like you're hunting for a sale, or they don't feel like you're not confident in the end of the conversation. Instead, you're able to step in and be confident, be yourself, be you on the call, because you can remind yourself at the end of the day, if they choose to say no, it's their loss, not mine. And this is how we can step into the call with the right energy and the right mindset, putting ourselves in position to win and land more high ticket sales. Tip number 5 is what I like to call 3 magic words. And this is a tactical tip that you can deploy again straight away today to help you close more deals, particularly at the end of your sales conversations. And that is the magic words of, is that fair enough? I learned this from the sales legend, Jordan Belfort. And this is something that is super, super powerful in sales conversations, along with being super simple to deploy as well. This literally is as simple as you getting to the end of the call. When you make your proposal or concession to them, you end it by saying, is that fair enough? Does that sound good to you? They can respond back and say, yeah, that's fair to me. Sounds good. Let's do it. Now, this is, again, putting things in kind of a perspective where, is this fair to what you're looking for? Is this in line with the problems that you're looking to solve with what we talked on today, the price range that you're looking to stay around, if you had mentioned a price range, so on and so forth. If they feel that's fair, when I ask that question, by nature, they're going to say, yeah, that's fair to me. Let's do it. Now, in some instances, they may object to that question. They say, you know what? As much as I'd love to get involved with this, it's just too much right now for me. I was hoping to stay more in this price range. So then I can step in and say, no worries. I understand that. If we did this instead, would that sound reasonable to you? Is that fair enough? By nature, they see you made a concession to work with them around what they had shared. And as human nature for them on the other side, they see, hey, this person's willing to work with me here. They made a concession. This sounds fair. That's fair with me. Let's do it. And just like that, he agreed to it, closed sale, and you can press on and continue with sealing things up and completing the deal. Cool. Sounds good. Let's move forward from here. With that fifth tip aside, that's a wrap for this one on 5 super simple sales tips you can go out and deploy right away today to start increasing your high ticket conversions and ultimately landing more high ticket sales. For those of you here watching through the end, drop a comment below and let me know which one of these 5 tips we went over today that you plan on implementing first going forward after watching this video. And if you enjoyed this video and you got value from it, your support means the world to me. And I would really appreciate it if you smash that thumbs up button before you go. And if you have not yet already, hit that subscribe button so you're not missing out on any future videos that we drop on the channel. Thanks again for watching and for your support. And I look forward to seeing you back in the next video very soon.